Princess Witch had woken up on the side of the lake at the oasis in her tent. She had just found the treasure chest at the bottom of the lake that contained the map that she had to get in order to move on with her quest to find the key to open the next portion of the magical book from the basement of the witch library in the archives. So she made a quick breakfast. She said hi to the mermaids again and told them she was off. She looked at the map, and in the map it showed that she had to go from the oasis to a dungeon in the Shadow World. She thought, last time I was at the Shadow World, it was a very hard quest, and I had to get the purple crystal there. I remember where I have to go to get to the Shadow World. The map pointed out an area in the marshes and the swampland. She said it was treacherous and dangerous to get there, but I will go there to find the next item on the quest to get the key. So the Princess Witch set off right away, and she flew to the marshy lands in the swamp. She remembered that there was a thick fog and poisonous gases, so she had to be on her guard. She flew and flew and flew some more, and she was heading towards the area on the map that would link to the Shadow World. So she finally found the spot. And before she summoned her magic to open the portal to the Shadow World, she saw something flying in the sky. It was Mr. Owl. Mr. Owl swooped down and said, "Hello there, Princess Witch. How are you today?" And Princess Witch said, "Oh, hi, Mr. Owl." Or should I say Grandpa Witch? Mr. Owl just gave her a funny look and said, "I see I've found my secret." And Princess Witch said, "How come you never told me?" And Mr. Owl said, "Well, my tale is of disappointment and sadness. And I was worried that if I told you my tale, you would be discouraged on going on your quest to become the most powerful witch ever." Princess Witch said, "Well, what happened to you? How did you get stuck as an owl?" And Grandpa Witch said that he was on a quest just like hers. However, it was shortly after his son, the King Witch, was born. He told Princess Witch that he lusted for power and that he could not go without a day or a night's rest without looking and going on the quest for the crystals, and that he had gotten much further along the quest than even she was now, and that during one of the quests something went wrong, and he was hit with a magical spell that turned him into an owl. And now, for the most part, he would only stay an owl. And he said, "You must have seen me when you were in the dream world, and you saw how I would look as a human." "Oh, yes," Princess Witch said, "you are a handsome old man. You helped me on one of my tasks and helped me find the gray crystal, as you've done throughout this whole quest in helping me out." And he said, "Well, if you wish to continue despite the dangers, the portal to the Shadow World is here, and you will have to go into the Shadow Dungeon in order to find the next item to help you find the key to open the book." She thanked Mr. Owl and said she was going to be on her way because she had a lot to do. And he said, "Remember, Princess Witch, make sure you take a break sometime to enjoy life." So Princess Witch opened the portal to the shadow world, and she jumped in and said goodbye to Mr. Owl, or Grandpa Witch. And so Princess Witch showed up in the shadow world. It was all dark and swirly and foggy. She still had her map. The map had pointed her right to the entrance to the shadow dungeon. It was like an old temple. It was dark. She went in the temple. She had all of her belongings just in case. She lit up her wand with a magic spell to cast light. She saw that there were multiple ways to go through the dungeon. It was kind of like a maze. Every time she walked in a room, the doors around would close. She had to figure out what to do to open the next door. If she got it wrong, she was worried there might be some type of penalty. She didn't want to get stuck as an owl like Grandpa Witch. She went slowly through the room. She finally found a brick that she could push. The door opened to the next room. When she went in, the door behind her slammed shut, and the door in front of her also slammed shut. She looked around and didn't see much. She tried pushing on some bricks. Finally, she stepped on something and it gave way. Oh no! A wall of spikes was falling towards her. She cast a magic spell. It didn't seem to work. The spikes were still coming. She had to hurry and solve the puzzle. Oh my gosh. She finally found another button on the floor and she pushed it and the door opened. She jumped through the door just in time as the spike wall came crashing down. Oh my goodness, she said. And then the door behind her closed again. She said, this is like non-stop. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to catch my breath. But just then, she saw along the walls there was a bunch of holes. So she cast a magic spell for a large rock to be made. She threw the rock in the middle of the room, and it hit one of the bricks on the floor, and it gave way. A bunch of flaming arrows shot through the holes in the wall. Oh my goodness, she thought. Good thing I just didn't walk, because I would have got hit by one of those arrows. Ouch. So she got down on her hands and knees and crawled across the floor. She got to the door where there was a button. She couldn't see it before, otherwise she would have just threw her hook at it. She hit the button and the next door opened. Oh boy, she said, I'm getting deeper and deeper in this shadow dungeon. The next room was completely empty. There was nothing really of notice. She looked around. Finally, she looked up. At the top, there was a button. And she said, how am I going to get up there? There was a little area where she could hook. She threw her grappling hook, her bronze grappling hook up there, and she made it all the way up there and hit the button. Just then, the room started filling with water. Oh no, she thought, what am I going to do? I might drown. But then she remembered her magical ability to become a mermaid. So the room filled with water, but she became a mermaid and was able to breathe underwater safely. She swam down, and there was another button that appeared after she hit the button on the ceiling, and she hit that button and the door opened. She hopped out and became a witch again, and the door slammed shut, so the next room didn't fill with water. This room just had 4 empty torches, and she thought, maybe I need to light these torches to get to the next room. So she casted a magical spell and shot a fireball at each of the torches, and the door opened, and she jumped through to the next room. Wow, this is a crazy puzzle dungeon, she thought. The next room was very small, she thought. There was a tiny little hole, And she looked through it. On the other side was the door. So she thought, well, maybe I should become a fairy to get through here. So she became a fairy and flew through the little tiny hole. She hopped out the other side, and all of a sudden the room got much bigger. And there was a huge monster that fell from the ceiling. He had a sword and a shield and a face of a dog, a face of a wolf. He said, I am the guardian of the Shadow Dungeon. Who goes before me? You will never get what's in the next room. So she pulled out her sword and her shield, and she hopped on her broom, and she started fighting him. Tink, 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 tink. She flew at him at all angles. Tink, tink, tink. She got really close. Oh no, he breathed fire. Ah, her broom got burned. Oh no, she thought. She cast a spell to put out the fire off her broomstick. And then she flew around him and flew around him. She said, maybe I need to turn back into a fairy and sprinkle some sleeping powder on him. So she did. He was swiping at her, but she was very nimble as a fairy, and he couldn't touch her. She got behind his eyes and sprinkled some fairy dust in him, on top of him. All of a sudden, he fell asleep. Whew, she thought, that was close. I was not expecting that. Fire breath. Whew, take a breath, man. She bound him up with magical rope that she created with her magic wand, and once she did that, the door magically opened. This time she entered a big open room, and on it was a pedestal. On the pedestal there was something glittery and gleaming. She thought, is this another crystal, or what is this? So she ran up the stairs towards this, but then she couldn't get any further. She tried all type of magic. Then she remembered that maybe she needed to become one with the shadow world. The shadow people had given her the ability to become invisible. Maybe when she was invisible, she could see there was an invisible force in front of her. So she turned invisible, and right before her was a wall. But alongside of the wall there was a ladder. She said, I would have never found this if I didn't enter the shadow world myself and become one with the shadow world. So she climbed up the ladder and hopped over top of the wall, and she finally saw what it was. It was a magical compass. The compass would help her along the way with the map in order to find the key. She thought there must be another part of this adventure. Otherwise, I wouldn't need this compass. The map didn't take me to the end of the road. She looked at the map, and now that she had the compass, another portion of the map seemed to unlock. There was magical scribbles where she had to go. All right, I know where I need to go. So she stayed invisible, and when she did that, the rest of the dungeon opened up. There was an opening that she didn't see before in the big room, and it took her right back outside the dungeon. Wow, she thought, I wish I would have done that in the first place. But then she looked back, and the exit that she left the dungeon was no longer there. So she went out of the dungeon and back to the portal, and she went back into the real world. She teleported back to the marshy swamps, and she said, I need to find some dry land because I have to set up camp for the next adventure. It's getting late, and I've had a long day. So she went to the edge of the prairie, and she found some wild grasses and herbs, and she made a fire and set up her tent. She ate some dinner, and she got some dry grasses from the plains and fixed her broomstick, and she fell asleep in her tent, comfy and cozy. The end.